Maquette joins the list of first-person adventure cross-puzzle games that have become quite the staple in gaming these last few years. I'm talking about Superliminal, Portal, Antichamber, and What Remains of Edith Finch, just to name a few. Published by Annapurna Interactive, Maquette joins the publisher's trend of heartfelt games that tackle evolving relationships. I'm looking at you, Florence and Sayonara Wild Hearts. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, maybe hit the bell icon, and share the video with your friends if you found the video useful. Now let's get into the review, starting with the story. Maquette tells the story of Michael and Kenzie, a young couple who randomly meet each other at a serendipitous trip to a cafe. What follows is a recollection of their relationship, both the highs and the lows that came with it. In true Annapurna Interactive fashion, it's a surreal story that tells the authenticity of love and relationships. It's not necessarily an unpaved territory here, neither from the publisher standpoint or just general writing, but the combination of strong performance, a solid script, and an interesting gameplay loop made the story engaging enough to keep me interested. I for one tend to lean heavily into these relationship emotional deep dives, and it's why some of my favorite films are Her, 500 Days of Summer, and The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and this adventure fits right alongside there. Presented as a first-person adventure game with elements of puzzle solving, Maquette is a simple and familiar feeling game. It feels like a combination of multiple first-person puzzle games, but with a heavier lean on the adventure gameplay and storytelling. While Portal had a portal gun and Superliminal had optical illusions, Maquette's hook is a recursive world that infinitely loops between a smaller and larger version of itself. The gameplay is broken up into chapters that not only tell you a new part of the story, but also give you new areas of the game's sandbox to explore. Initially, you're presented with a diorama at the center of the environment. I didn't think much of it until I started to play and realized that the diorama represents the larger area around me as well. With this mechanic in mind, one can move around objects to change their perspective in the diorama. So I might have a smaller key, but if I drop it inside the smaller diorama, I'll suddenly find a giant key right outside the diorama. This is the core mechanic of Maquette's gameplay loop, but it does a decent job at evolving over time. For example, later levels add crystals that open corresponding colored walls, so you'll have to suddenly use the enlargement and shrinking mechanic in conjunction with these color-coded keys. It's not as challenging as it probably sounds, but it was enough to keep my brain active and thinking in interesting ways, which I think is a lot of the goals with these puzzle games. That was my general feeling with Maquette over its 2 to 4 hour campaign. It's not breaking the medium or innovating in extraordinary ways. If anything, it's a safe continuation of what many games have done before it, but it does it well enough to justify its existence. Puzzles didn't leave me stumped, but did actively keep me interested in solving them while learning more about Kenzie and Michael's relationship, which only further fueled my curiosity to learn what happened to them. Being this month's PlayStation Plus PS5 game, I was hoping to see some sort of amazing visual showcase with the title. While I don't think it pushes the next-gen envelope, Maquette truly is a charming and lovely looking game. The game actively phases in new buildings and dioramas to further evolve the story of this relationship in interesting ways, though sometimes to the point of making things I'd love to interact with but couldn't. Its use of vibrant colors to paint a beautifully saturated world is nothing short of marvelous. Equally, the game knows when to lower the saturation to depict more somber moments of the relationship. More tranquil and peaceful moments are represented by animated paintings, usually conveying what Michael and Kenzie are having a conversation about. The way the art meshed with the writing to tell this relationship story was stunning. What was also equally as stunning though was the performance. While most of Maquette runs fine, playing on my PS5 I was shocked to see a few frame rate dips here and there. It wasn't enough to ruin the game for me, but enough to question how a rather simple indie game like this could be struggling on a new next-gen console. Interestingly enough, you do have a few visual options like setting the texture quality and an FOV slider, which I just left to high for the textures and default for the FOV. When it comes to audio, Maquette does a great job at crafting an ambient soundscape that immersed me while playing. Dropping a small key into the diorama suddenly synced with the very loud metal clap of a giant key landing right beside me. Exploring the larger dioramas filled my ears with sounds of my footsteps, the rustling of grass, and the sounds of objects being tinkered with. What stood out to me the most though was the immaculate performances by real-life Hollywood couple Bryce Dallas Howard and her husband Seth Gable. The two do a remarkable job at portraying an authentic feeling relationship, both the good and the bad aspects, and ultimately it was their performance that captivated me. Maquette didn't blow me away or reinvent the puzzle adventure genre, but it didn't need to. It justified its existence by providing a fun and entertaining 2 to 4 hour adventure while keeping me interested in learning more about this couple. The puzzles could have been more challenging and the performance definitely could have been better in terms of optimization, but ultimately I enjoyed my time with Maquette. I consistently say I find myself drawn to more of these bite-sized great indie experiences, and Maquette is just another one, and if you have PS Plus, it's this month's free game, so why not give it a shot? Thanks so much for watching this review. I tend to really like Annapurna's games, and even though this wasn't my favorite new game, I think it was still a solid adventure. I tend to lean more towards these emotionally centered games, so this is definitely scratching my itch. But what do you think about these more tranquil indies? Are you a fan, or do you prefer more heavy action AAA stuff? Anyway, I gotta get back to listening to Porter Robinson's new song, which is amazing by the way, but I'll see you all over on the Discord server or in the comments down below.